I've got to go proctor my geometry finals in just a second, so let's see how fast I can do a hardware news video. So we're seeing from, what is it, from DigiTimes, I believe is the original source of this, although I'm seeing it reported here at WCCF Tech. I do link all of my sources in my description if you want to take a closer look for yourself, that we're seeing price hikes coming, and this is likely due to TSMC raising prices. So if these reports are to be believed, that we're seeing that, again, this is via DigiTimes, AMD will increase its quotations for all 7nm and 5nm chips produced at TSMC, as TSMC has increased its quotations for mature and advanced process nodes by 10 to 20% starting this year. And it's reported that Nvidia has also paid TSMC upfront payments for long-term orders for the 5nm RTX 40 GPU series starting this year, and may pass on some of the may pass on some of the high manufacturing costs to customers. I'm going to revise that as, yes, things will cost a lot more. They already do, and I expect things to not get better, possibly get worse. So anyway, perhaps that has something to do with why we're seeing the RX 6500 XT, which is this incredibly cut down GPU. We're seeing some early listings on it for 300 or more euros. Now, while in good old American dollary dues, that's going to transfer to a lot more than $300, right? But a lot of times we see pricings kind of that don't make sense, right? Where like $300 equals 300 euros, that kind of a thing. So I haven't seen early US listings, but it wouldn't surprise me to see that at the initial launch, we do see models in this range in terms of dollars as well. Where I think on day one, you'll probably see a few models at MSRP. We usually do when a card first launches, have at least some models sell at MSRP on that day one launch, with a whole bunch higher than that. And then after that, we usually see bundle deals and then just cards that are just marked up above MSRP. And I'll expect that to see here as well. Now, I'm really interested to see these reviews, which I think get to come out tomorrow. Is that the review embargo lifting date? To see how it goes. But as summarized here, in a, a lot of people have already talked about this and mentioned here on video cards, and they're referencing a really, really good video that Hardware Unboxed did on this topic, where if you take a 5500 XT, right, because they're still covered, blocked by their non-disclosure agreement talking about the 6500 XT for their full review. But they're free to explore the 5500 XT all they want, which they then tried limiting its PCIe bandwidth. That's the issue. So basically, it's looking like the PCIe Gen 4 x 4 interface, which is what the 6500 XT will have, is not really going to be a big problem when you're on a Gen 4 platform. But when you're on a Gen 3x4 platform, it could be an issue. And again, this is verified on the 5500 XT, so it's not the exact same card, but I did watch this full video. And basically, the issue, like a lot of people were predicting, is that when the card needs to share system RAM, because it only has 4 GB, you start to see major performance hits. So basically, it's gonna run pretty much fine if you can stay within your 4 GB VRAM buffer. But that's already hard to do in a lot of games and will just continue to get worse. So if you're on an older Gen 3 platform, which a lot of people looking for a budget GPU are gonna be, this could definitely be an issue, and I highly recommend taking a look at this video from Hardware Unboxed where they explore that issue, again on a 5500 XT, but they're able to simulate a lot of the issues that we'll probably see here. Now, hey, this isn't really hardware news, it's more software news, but I think a lot of you will probably care. It's looking like Microsoft is pretty much, like, this still needs to go through a lot of regulatory agencies and shareholders need to approve it. But Microsoft is buying Activision Blizzard. And that is absolutely massive news for Game Pass, right? So I think Game Pass PC is a fantastic deal. But it's looking like in the future, when should we expect this to close? The press release is saying that the deal is expected to close in fiscal year 2023. And then it would still take time because, like, we've seen Microsoft acquire other studios, like when they got ZeniMax, which gave them Bethesda. We saw that some games that had already been planned to be multi-platform still were multi-platform, but then future games would be then limited to Xbox platforms, which includes PC. Right? So for PC gamers, this shouldn't be that bad of a thing. I think it might actually end up being a good thing, especially if you subscribe to the Game Pass PC, because we could start to see Activision Blizzard titles on Game Pass, which is great. I think for people on Sony consoles, this could be bad news if we start to see franchises like Call of Duty go exclusive, which I'd imagine they eventually would. I do get irritated by the exclusivity deals, so I think this is a bit of a mixed bag. I hate seeing things go exclusive, but as far as the value being added to Game Pass, I think this could be a big deal and is obviously a smart move for Microsoft if they could lock in not only Blizzard titles, but Call of Duty. Although the last Call of Duty didn't sell as well as normal, and honestly, I wasn't a huge fan. I'm never that big of a fan of Call of Duty, to be honest, but Vanguard, I actually refunded it, guys. I bought it to test out and maybe keep, but didn't like it. Anyway, let's pop into some other things. So I don't really know what to make of this. I don't think it's going to affect you guys too much. So, maybe I'm not even going to talk really about it, because this is more of a data center and Tesla thing, but Nvidia is making a change to offloading tasks that were traditionally performed by the driver on the CPU, offloading that to the GPU, I believe. Not that big of a deal for you guys, because it's not talking about like gaming graphics cards. Although this is interesting, we're seeing NVIDIA establishing a new CPU research and development group in Israel. And I think this is related to their, NVIDIA's still pushing to get ARM, right? So NVIDIA's still, right, we got Intel moving more into the GPU space. So we've got Intel with CPUs and GPUs. We've got AMD already killing it in the CPU space, and moving ahead with their top-end graphics cards finally competing at the high end for the first time in a long while. NVIDIA still has the highest end and largest market share in that GPU space, but like for a long-term strategy, it makes a lot of sense for them to also have a CPU department. So I'm not sure I like the idea of them acquiring ARM, but it looks like they're still pushing ahead with not only the ARM acquisition, but moving ahead with research and development and all of that. Now, we got some rumors regarding a refresh of the 6000 series AMD cards. So far, it looks like this started out with a Greymon 55 tweet, and he leaks a lot of stuff and is usually fairly accurate. This one doesn't have many details, though. It looks like it could just be a refresh of the 6000 series desktop chips with slightly faster 18 gigabit per second memory bandwidth, but that's a maybe in quotation marks. Now we're seeing another leak. Now I don't know this source as well at all, but this one's talking about those same ideas, right? And that they'd code those as putting a 50 at the end, so, right? So like instead of a 6600, you'd have a 6650, right? 6800 would be a 6850, right? So they would code those with the 50 at the end to indicate the higher bandwidth memory, if that is indeed what the update is. And this one is saying should come out in Q2, or there are really no new products. So I'm not sure this person really knows much. So this is how the GPU leaks go sometimes. Sometimes we get things that are probably solid info, and sometimes is it just some random person speculating on the internet that's then getting reported by a bunch of news outlets, and hey, then I'm talking about it. But whatever. Anyway, it'd be kind of neat if we saw a little update, but I don't think it's also that big of a deal, to be honest. I want the 7000 series. Let's talk about that. And then the last thing is a new GPU from Nvidia, the GT 1010, which is, yes, worse than the GT 1030. And apparently a leaked benchmark of this came out, and as far as I can tell, it's not only 35% slower than the GT 1030, that also puts it slower than integrated graphics like Intel's Xe chips. So, Yay! So I don't really know what this would even be for. I guess if you just don't have a graphics card in your system at all and you just need to connect to a display or something. Of course, I imagine just because it has the Nvidia name on it and it's a graphics card, if it does launch, it'll probably be sold at some ridiculous markup. So anyway, what do you guys think? I've got to go do some geometry finals proctoring, so bye.